I never usually do anything that I don't want to do. Do what you want to do, but also don't forget to do things that make you uncomfortable. I think if you're uncomfortable sometimes, it means you're pushing yourself. It makes you feel alive.
What does a rich life mean to you?
I think you're rich when you have a good group of friends. You can have 6 to 8 good friends and you can have 150 acquaintances. But once you try to have more than that, you take away from the friendships from the other one.
Tattoos, tempted yet?
Tattoos are just a permanent reminder of a momentary thought.
That's a beautiful quote.
We're actually a lot smarter than everybody else. And we have an ability to see things differently, and it makes a huge difference.
I wonder what were the rich ingredients in your life that you think has created this meal you now call your life?
Today on The Rich Life Recipe, we're serving up something truly special with a guest who brings flavor, passion, and purpose to everything he does. World-renowned chef Marc Murphy.
Here I am.
You may know him from The Judge's Table or Chopped and just about every other Food Network show, including his brand new show coming out in April, 24 in 24. Marc is also known for hosting private dining events and pop-up dinners at his space in New York City, which is where we are today.
Live on set.
Live. But Marc's journey goes far beyond the TV screen with a career spanning over 30 years. In the culinary world, he's trained under the most iconic chefs in the industry in some of the most prestigious kitchens at Michelin-starred restaurants. He's owned celebrated restaurants and has become a trusted voice in the food hospitality and humanitarian efforts. From growing up across Europe to building an empire in New York City, Marc's story is rich with experience, resilience, and reinvention. In this episode, Marc shares the key ingredients that have shaped his rich life, not just in the kitchen, but in life. We'll talk about the discipline of cooking, the power of saying yes, and how food connects us all. We'll dig into what drives him today, from mentoring young chefs to giving back in meaningful ways. Get ready to cook up some wisdom with Chef Marc Murphy.
Oh my, that's quite a production.
That was quite an intro. That might be Alicia's biggest, boldest intro ever.
I mean, wow.
After messing it up a few times.
No, that was great. That was great. Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you for making the time to be here. For those that are listening for the first time or watching, I'm Jason Allan Scott. My incredible co-host is Alicia, or should I say I'm the co-host and Alicia is the host for this because she is the super fan of this particular podcast. And again, if you are listening, take some time to go check out the YouTube channel. You'll see the beaming smile. You won't get to see the boots, but maybe if you're lucky, she can show you at the end. But I'm going to start with a powerful question, a question that when I said I was doing this interview, everyone asked. I am doing this podcast from London, and in London, academic scholarship or education is probably paramount to anything. The first thing they ask you is, what school did you go to? What university did you go to? What red brick society did you go through? And for someone like yourself who has said your dyslexia is your superpower, how have you found that to give you strength, or how has that become a strength of yours versus something that has perhaps made it harder for achievement in your own rich life?
All right. So I love this question. First of all, yes, I think that there is a lot of, in society, people wonder where you went to school, what your diploma says. I think in my industry, it doesn't matter because what you really learn, you learn on the road. I went to a 3-month cooking school. I had a wonderful childhood growing up. My palate was developed from eating as a child growing up in Europe. So I was already ahead of the game. But really, it was about, doing things over and over. And look, some people say that, the restaurant industry or the culinary it's an art, but it's also a craft. It's about doing things over and over and making something precisely right every time. And that's a very important thing. I think that it rides both sides of the aisle on that sense. It's got, it's a craft, but it's a creative craft, I would say. My dyslexia is something that steered me to do what I'm doing. It steered me in a lot of different ways, some negative, some positive. The negatives became positives. It was a wonderful sort of story in that sense. And only recently I started working with an organization made by Dyslexia, and it's some people out of London actually, and Richard Branson's on the board, and I've been working with them a lot. And I did a talk here in New York City in front of 1,500 people. We had all these different speakers, dyslexics, and they invited me to come and be on a panel with them. And I have to say, I was the last person on this panel after about an hour and a half. I learned so much about myself in that this was literally about a year and a half ago, that everything sort of started making a little bit more sense about how I think and how about dyslexics think. And it is a superpower, it turns out. I think that they even got the LinkedIn to put it as a plus button on LinkedIn to say that you have dyslexia. And I do find something that I didn't know about, but I was on my kid's school board years ago for about 9 years. And I'm with all these people that are incredibly accomplished as in business or finance or something. They all went to colleges and everything. And I would literally sit there, and I didn't know why. I sort of know why now, but I would sit there and they would be talking about something. And I was like, this is as clear as day. Why aren't they understanding this? And then when I started working with Made by Dyslexia, they're trying to convince every HR person in every company that any important meeting, you should have a dyslexic person in that room, because we think differently and we can solve problems differently. We don't go from A to Z in a straight line. We might go in a zigzag line, but that zigzag line makes a lot more sense in sort of natural, practical life things. And I find it really intriguing. And now that I know this, and when I'm in a group of people, I sort of feel like, okay, I definitely know that I'm thinking differently about things. And I'm starting to see it now in my 50s. I finally figured it out. But as I said, like even before, like since I was dyslexic, I was terrible in school. People didn't know what to do with me. I failed every class. I got kicked out of all the schools because I was goofing off, because I didn't fit in with everybody else. But that sort of directed me to cooking, because when I got out of school, I went to high school and I went to the college counselor. They said, well, you should just go get a job. You're not getting into any college. And then I moved to New York City, and I was crashing on my brother's couch and some friends' couches. And I thought, I'm super dyslexic. I've done nothing right in my life. I've gotten kicked out of every school. I'm basically a complete failure. And I said to myself, okay, I grew up in Europe, so I ate really well. My mother's French. I'd spend the summers in the south of France with my grandparents, eating really well. I always thought to myself, okay, I can probably deal with being homeless. I could be pretty crafty. I could probably build a nice home out of a refrigerator box, but I do not want to be hungry. That was my main thing. I do not want to be hungry. So then when I was living with my brother, and I was a handyman to his girlfriend's friends, and I was just doing odd jobs in New York, I felt bad. I wasn't paying rent. So every night I would cook dinner. And after a month or two, my brother goes, you seem to like this cooking thing. Why don't you go to cooking school? And I was like, that's a thing? And I ended up going to a 3-month cooking school, got my first job, and never turned around. I got addicted to it. And the reason I got addicted to it, which I know now, which I didn't know then, is because I finally did something or made something that people enjoyed and liked and respected me for. I had never done anything like that. So now I was cooking things, and people were eating them, and they were smiling, and they were having fun, and they were approving of it. I'd never had that experience before. And the first time that the chef, I remember my chef, David Pasternak, he threw everybody else off the line. I was there for about a year and a half at this one restaurant. He goes, we got some big VIP tables coming in. Murphy, come over here. You're cooking with me. I was like, that was the first time I had ever been accepted into anything really. And it was really, truly, it was wild. I didn't know what it was. Now I know what it was. Then I didn't know what it was. It just felt good. And I just was like, hey, it feels good. I'll keep doing this. Right. So that's where I feel like the dyslexia really, did something for me. And what I love is I'm on this show called Chopped, as you probably know. You're supposed to be talking to. I'm sorry. I'm filling up all the airways here.
You're the guest.
And anytime I talk about my dyslexia, I get so many emails, social media DMs and things. People like thanking me because they're like, oh my God, my kid's dyslexic. They don't know what to do with it, or they don't feel like they fit in. But it turns out we're actually a lot smarter than everybody else. And we have an ability to see things differently, and it makes a huge difference. I'll give a quick example. My niece is also dyslexic, and I had finally gotten her into a school. It unfortunately isn't around anymore, but it was just for dyslexic. Small school, classes of like 8 or 12 people. She graduated high school. They asked me to come and be the speaker. And of course, being a dyslexic, the last thing I can do is read a script or give a speech. I was like nervous as shit, right? I was like, oh my God. I had an assistant at the time, and she says, "Oh, you're going to meet this woman. She's coming to help you write your speech." I'm like, "What do you mean to help me write my speech?" And this woman from Brooklyn comes in, total hipster, kind of like whatever. She comes in. I had to give 2 speeches. I remember one for City Harvest because I was being honored at a charity that I'm on the board of, and then another one for this school for dyslexic kids. I had to be the keynote speaker. I sat down with this woman for about 2 hours, told her what I wanted to say, and she goes, "I'll be back." She came back 2 weeks later. She came back 2 weeks later with two speeches. There were no words. They were all pictures. I was like, "What is this?" She goes, "Marc, I wanted to make it so it was good for your dyslexia." So, for example, like when I had to thank the people when I did the one for City Harvest for this charity event, when I got on stage, the first page there's a written on the top, "Thank you." There was a picture of the host who introduced me. I had to thank him. Picture of Jilly Stevens, who was the head of City Harvest, and then a picture of an audience. So the 3 people I had to thank: the audience for being here, the head of the. It was brilliant. And then there's always this story I tell about when I was doing the speech for the school. I was like, when I went to school, it always felt like a jail sentence, and I'd have this little story that I talk about, right? She literally had a page with a jail bars with me behind it. That was to remind me to tell that story. It was absolutely brilliant. At the end of the speech, everybody was like clapping and whatever. And I said, I should probably show these kids what my speech looks like because they're all dyslexic too. And I went to the podium and I showed them what the speech looked like. The place went crazy. It was like it was really kind of it was a very emotional moment for me in that sense. It was really kind of cool. Yeah.
I think there's two rich life.
We're done.
We're finished. Thanks for coming to our TED Talk. There's 2 rich life recipe ingredients in that we've just heard. The first is find something that you see as play that other people see as work, right? You cooked for your family. You were doing it as something just to do, and you were good at it. And because you were good at it, you could keep doing it. So it doesn't feel like work. So going to a 3-month work thing to learn the skill doesn't feel like that. It just feels like play. The other thing is find the language that best speaks to you. If you see images, work with images. If you see sounds, work with sounds. I'm in podcasting as one of my things that I do because I have a face for radio. It's just something that's easier for my particular skill set. So I think where happens or what goes on the rest of this episode, I want everyone that's listening to write that down or draw a picture or say it aloud if you're an auditory learner. I will find something that to me feels like play that everyone else thinks is work, and I'll get paid to do that. And number 2, find a language that speaks to you.
But the other thing about that is I think that once you find the thing that you love to do so you don't feel like you're going to work, even if you're not getting paid much at the beginning, the money will come later because you'll end up being good at it. That is a very important thing as well, because I think that a lot of people think, oh, there's not much money in this. But if you're good at it, there's going to be a way that you're going to end up being successful at that skill. And there's no way around it. If you enjoy it, you're going to excel. That's all there is to it.
I love that.
Very notable rich life ingredient right there. It is. I mean, that's so true. And plus, I think you found your purpose, right? And I think that's what everybody is always looking for. But when you're just so focused on finding what your purpose, instead of just going about your life and doing things you like, it makes it harder to find it. I think when you're more relaxed and like you said, you're playing, it comes more naturally. You figure out what you're good at. And you also mentioned growing up in Europe. So you grew up in, I think it was Milan, Paris, Rome. How did those cultures shape the way you cook versus cooking in the United States where everything is fast food and everybody wants everything very quickly? Has there been a transition there, or have you applied the same skills?
I mean, growing up in Europe, I just got to see good food all the time, and it was not hard to find because it was at every trattoria or bistro or whatever. There was always good food. And I think that, the notion that America is just fast food is also, I think, a misnomer, because I've been working in America for many, many years, and I know many, many, many chefs, and I know none of them that work at fast food restaurants. There's some amazing restaurants in our country now, and I think I do credit. I think we had the war, World War II. People came back from that. People wanted to go quicker. People wanted to make more convenient. There was, the TV dinner era, this and that. But then after that, there was this moment. I think that years later, the Food Network came along, and I think sort of it has helped right the ship, so to speak, because people started getting to learn more things that they probably would have known otherwise, but they just are starting to learn more about ingredients. Even a show like Chopped that I'm on, it's entertainment, but you're also learning. You get there's these 4 crazy basket ingredients. They have to make a dish with that. But in the mix, I'm never a very big fan of the sweet crappy food that's in there. But there'll be an artichoke, or there'll be a certain type of fish. And if you're watching it at home, you're watching this entertainment show. But like, oh look, I got 4 people making artichokes 4 different ways. Yeah. Hey, maybe that'll inspire me next time I go to the grocery store to buy an artichoke and give it a whirl. I mean, these people can do it in 30 minutes. I could try to do it and just open up a book. But I think inspiring people to cook and to explore food, I think the Food Network has helped with that. And I do think that there's been a great amount of sharing from France, Italy, all countries. I mean, we live in New York City. We're in the middle of heaven here with food. I mean, from you want to wake up in the morning and go to a Basque restaurant, you can find probably one of the best Basque restaurants in America right here in New York City, which is great.
That's so true. So you mentioned cooking and the Chopped, right? So I know you were on Chopped Junior. What's it like with the children cooking? Because they are really good. That show, I'm always like, who are these kids?
Well, it's very funny because ever since, there's not just Chopped Junior, there's also MasterChef Junior, I think, and there's Gordon Ramsay does those shows with kids. And it's brilliant. It's brilliant to see kids. I mean, look, I was just at an event in Rochester recently, and there was a band, and there was like 12-year-old kids playing rock and roll, right? There's kids have interests, and cooking is one of them. And this is sort of flourished in that. Some of those kids, they train to come on those shows. They get they'll hire chefs to train them and do things like, oh yeah, absolutely. It's a big deal. But it's not any different than hiring somebody to teach the kid how to play guitar, right? Yeah. I mean, it's or the drums, right? It's sort of the same thing. I think it's amazing. I think that I always hope those kids come on voluntarily, and they definitely realize only three of them will have to go home and one will win. Because emotionally, I can't imagine. I have kids. I would never push my child or want to push a kid to go in front of on television at 12 or 13 years old to get chopped and then go back to school the next week and have to deal with that again.
Not everyone's getting a trophy.
Not everyone's getting a trophy there, but it is brilliant to see these kids. And sometimes I'm always trying to be, compassionate with them. It's like, listen, it's a game show. We're making you cook 4 ingredients in 30 minutes. It's not easy. We understand that sometimes you're going to screw up. So do we. I never win those shows when I compete.
I have to ask, with Chopped Kids or Chopped, you've got 3 ingredients and a short period of time. That kind of fits well with this whole show. You've got a short number of time on this earth, and none of us know when the producer's going to shout cut. That's the end of your episode. And at the same time, I wonder, what were the rich ingredients in your life that you think has created this meal you now call your life, the opportunity to do podcasts, do talks, give back as much as you do, as well as your own culinary experiences?
I mean, for me, the beauty about being on a TV show and having success is being able to give back. I mean, that's one of that fits into my sort of world. If I'm able to give back, it's everything to me. It's wonderful to be able to do that. And I like, it's just being a human. I find it fulfills you, in a certain sense. And I enjoy it. And you end up having relationships with people because of it. You meet people. I'm obviously a huge extrovert, so I love energy. Brings me energy. So I always need to be doing a lot of things. I have a hard time sitting on a beach with a book. It doesn't really happen for me. I sort of just twitch and like, okay, what's next? I got to get out of here. I got to do something. So I need the energy anyway. And I find that it's really, it's fun.
Well, I was reading your bio, and as I'm reading it, I'm like, oh my God, I'm just not doing enough. There's a lot in there.
I feel like I'm always wanting to do more. My calendar is usually pretty busy. I don't really have a job, but I have a million jobs, which is what I love. And that's what I love about it.
So what would you say those ingredients would be? Would it be finding something you're into, keep doing it? Would it be find out how you work best so you're not, don't go lie on a beach with a book if that's not your personality? Is it that there's kind of like 3 phases? There's this learn, return?
Some of the things that I do are, I never usually do anything that I don't want to do, right? do what you want to do. But also don't forget to do things that make you uncomfortable. I think if you're uncomfortable sometimes, it means you're pushing yourself. It makes you feel alive, right? You're all of a sudden doing something like, oh my God, I'm nervous about this. This is great. Like it makes
today.
you feel alive, right? You got to do it, right? And I think the other thing is I think it inherently lives within me, but curiosity. I think that just being curious about things. Sometimes I don't retain a lot of information, but things that I sometimes surprise myself sometimes of things that I remember. And it's probably just because I'm curious about that one aspect of it. It's sort of, it's interesting to me and it just sticks. And yeah, and it's natural. I don't force it. I don't try to memorize, the encyclopedia, but I just try to absorb life. I try to enjoy life. I try to enjoy, people tell me sometimes, like, I sleep really well. Like I go to sleep, I'm out, right? It's because I like to use all the energy in my batteries before I go to bed. I don't go to bed not tired, that's for sure. I like to use, my family makes fun of me. If everybody's out, my kids are out with their friends, my wife's out, and I come home and there's nobody there, well, I'm going to go find something to do. They're like, well, can't you just stay home and relax? I'm like, nope.
That's great.
Why waste a night? There's not many of them.
Yeah. You're not wrong there. That's for sure. I know you've worked with some of the most iconic chefs, such as Alain Ducasse and Joseph Fortunato.
Sure.
So what's one quiet moment, like, when you're working in these Michelin-starred restaurants, it's probably go, go, go all night long. So what is your quiet moment, quiet time? How do you disconnect? What does that look like for you? And I know that's probably hard based on what you just said, that you like to go, go, go. So how do you recharge?
It's interesting is it's only started happening in the last couple of years. I used to run, and I stopped running because getting older, my knees were hurting. But now what I do is I walk uphill on the treadmill for an hour every day at a high incline, and it's much better for me, for the old bones. But I find that when you just listen to music, and it's interesting, your mind. There's something that happens with your mind. I think when you're doing something, first of all, when you're exercising, your mind, it brings more, I don't know what it does. I'm sure there's a scientist out there that can explain it, but you end up thinking a lot more. You end up, ideas become clearer. What I like about doing it is I'm walking over, I can still like write myself notes because I think of stuff when I'm doing that. Listening to music and just walking for an hour uphill really does, for some reason, it wakes up the mind and it sort of makes things move a little bit more. And
I would agree with that. Definitely. I have the same thing when I'm on my treadmill or just walking outside. I don't know what it is either, but we should ask Dr. Rachel.
There must be a doctor that can tell us about
She's been on.
We have a neuroscientist that can give us the exact reason for that. I actually got some advice by another celebrity chef. Shout out to Michael Chernow, who said, Jason, I was lost. I was trying to work out what I was going to do next. I retired 3 years after selling my business, not doing anything besides a couple of these little podcasts. And he said, just walk. Don't put the headphones on. Don't put the music on. 1 to 3 hours, just walk. And I then heard Tony Robbins saying the same thing. Motion creates emotion. Emotion creates desire. Desire leads to action. And that was it. It was just this little idea of walking. And then when I didn't have the sun anymore, when I came back to the UK, because I was staying on a little beach town in Portugal, I went on the treadmill, 10.5, 4.5 running, walking speed. And same thing, 2 to 3 hours every day. Massive difference. Absolutely massive. So Rich Life ingredient number 7 is walk, move, do something. Motion creates emotion.
Do something. Yeah,
Exactly.
That's true. Yeah. You want me to go now? Or you?
I was trying to be polite. I thought, well, I've just taken the 5 minutes of your time. I'm going to step back and let you go back in. We mentioned interesting stories and growing up in Europe. And this is a question, again, I asked a bunch of people, what would be the one question to ask you? I do this in every episode. The number one question, and this is a bizarre one, so I'm going to warn you ahead of time. What was it like having Prince Andrew as a babysitter?
Oh, no, that was Prince Albert, actually.
Prince Albert. Oh, well, that makes a complete different storyline.
A very different story. My father was an American diplomat, so we moved all the time, and he was consul general in Nice. They had a consulate back in the day there, and one of his jurisdictions was Monte Carlo. And they became friendly with Rainier and Grace, and they actually, my parents still live there. He gave them citizenship, so that's where they retired. They live in Monte Carlo, oddly enough. But no, when Albert went, we obviously knew all the family. We knew each other, whatever. And he went to Amherst for college. And sometimes back in the day, he didn't want to go all the way home for the holidays. So my father was stationed in Virginia. So we were outside. He was at the State Department in D.C. So every once in a while, when he didn't feel like going home, he would just come stay with us. And then my parents, I guess, realized that, oh, good, there's an adult in the house. They can go out to dinner. So he ended up becoming the babysitter de facto.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Who can say they have a prince as a babysitter?
It was cute, yeah. And then Grace used to come sometimes, and she stayed with us once or twice, and because she was doing readings at the Kennedy Center and things like that. So it was. I was a little kid. It was kind of interesting to have. I didn't really obviously know the difference. They were just my parents' friends in a certain sense. They lived in a fancy castle. That was the only difference.
Does that change some part of your brain chemistry though? Because you've realized that you've touched what many only see on a page, right? You've touched history.
I mean, I think that I'm lucky that my father, being an American diplomat, was always around sort of people, very different and interesting people. But we were never, when you're a diplomat, it's a civil servant salary. He wasn't making a lot of money, so we weren't in that category. But we sort of touched that category. But we knew I got to see a very big swath of society, and I think what it did to me was really give me an appreciation for just people. I sometimes actually feel more sorry for those people because they're under such a spotlight, and I feel bad that they can't just be people and take the subway to work. It must be tough being that way. I guess it just taught me that people are just people. They all put their pants on one leg at a time. It doesn't matter.
Did you call him Uncle Albert?
No. He did. When I had my restaurant at Time Warner, he did come with a bunch of people once, and everybody was like, "How do you know him? What's he doing here?" It's like, he's going to say hi.
I love that. Just remember that the princes and kings are just like you. They've got people that help put their pants on one leg at a time.
Yep. Just like everybody else.
Just like everyone else that has servants.
Well, here's something that's not like everybody else. So you originally dreamed of being a race car driver.
I did. When I was younger, and I had a friend of mine in high school who his parents had a lot more money than I did, but he decided to he went to Skip Barber Racing School to try it out, and I got super interested in that. I used to like driving. I like speed. I like going fast.
Like, what's the fastest you've driven a car?
In a car, I lost my license once, but that was on a motorcycle. I was going out to Long Island, and a nice police officer chased me for an hour. I was doing 140, and it was
on a motorcycle.
Yeah, that was didn't work out well for me. I did lose my license for a year, but yeah, I did like speed. Even like when I ski, I like always going really fast too. But cars always intrigued me. I like working with my hands. I thought mechanic stuff is always great. I used to work with my grandfather when we'd go for the summer, even when I was a little kid. He was always doing things around the house. My grandfather was an engineer for a French oil company. He worked in the oil fields as an engineer for all throughout the war and whatnot. So when he retired, he had this house, and he was sort of, I guess I'm just like him. He could never really sit down and relax. So he was always doing something. I'd go there one summer. I remember he goes, "We're redoing the kitchen floor. I don't like the pipes. We have to change all the pipes under the floor. We have to put new copper in and weld it." So then, we're cracking up the kitchen floor, taking out all the sand, putting it out back, fixing all the pipes. But I was a little kid, and I loved manual labor. I liked it. It was probably one of those other situations where I was accomplishing a task. If I had to move all the sand from here to there, a task was completed, and I felt good about myself.
Something about immediate results.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't me, because the papers I handed in at school did not get very good results.
So what do you do now for that adrenaline rush? Are you still racing motorcycles?
No, I've slowed down a little bit. Now I just have my Vespa. I got rid of the motorcycle. I don't have as many friends that want to go on motorcycle trips because it's always the fun thing is when you get a group of guys together and get on a bike and go somewhere.
To ride. It's fun.
It's so much fun. I love riding. But I have a Vespa and I travel a lot. So I'm always bouncing around doing things. But yeah, there's not much speed anymore. And this was, by the way, when I was doing that, I was much younger. I wasn't married. I didn't have kids. So it was a different
time.
It was a different time in my life where nothing really mattered at all. Just go.
That's funny.
You mentioned a Vespa, and obviously you mentioned the amount of traveling you've done and the people that you've met. Someone listening to this, someone right now, guaranteed listening to this while giving us 5 stars on Apple iTunes and leaving a comment and making sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell, is probably thinking,
listen up.
Yeah, this is my NLP slightly sliding in. What does a rich life mean to you? These things sound like a rich life to us, and I would definitely think it's a rich life to most people. But to you, what are the ingredients of a rich life?
I think you're rich when you have a good group of friends. And I did read a study once that you can have 6 to 8 good friends and you can have 150 acquaintances. But once you try to have more than that, you take away from the friendships from the other ones. So that's pretty much, if you can have that sort of core group, and that's like somebody that you can go and cry on their shoulder. That's like a real friend. You're supposed to have 6 to 8 of those, and then 150 acquaintances. I think that probably maybe the family is separate from that. I'm not sure. I don't know what the study says. I think that and your health. I mean, that if you have good friends and you have your health, and you can stand up and walk up and down stairs and go for a walk and feel good and not have your bones aching too much. Which as you get older, you realize that's a reality of things. Yes. I think you're very rich if you have those 2 things.
I love that. Health is wealth, as we keep.
But also, I think experiences. I think in general, having many experiences is also another measure of not. I always say to people, I was like, don't buy crap. I mean, it's nice to have nice things, but it's much better to have nice experiences. Yeah. Like spend your money on a really good vacation. Spend your money on a really good dinner with friends. You're going to remember that much more than a vase or whatever, whatever. I mean, if you,
I agree. That's why I'm coming here Friday to Marc's Kitchen, Kitchen in New York, and it's a beef steak. I'm very excited for it.
Yes, it's going to be a lot of fun.
So
Oh, sorry. Go, Alicia. Nope. Apologies. No. Go.
Take it away.
He's going to come. He's going to come here for it.
So, Jason, you're invited to come. So that being said, what do you do now? Like, I know you like to travel, but what is something else that brings you pure joy?
Something else that brings me pure joy, probably right now is watching my kids and watching their accomplishments.
Yeah.
My daughter's graduating college this year. She's graduating from Tulane. My son is actively pursuing being recruited to go to college for basketball.
Nice.
And that's something that is really pretty amazing to watch your kid work so hard at something to get to where he wants to be, because he works very hard at it. And that's like, to me, like going to one of his basketball games and watching him succeed is just it's a huge pleasure. Absolutely.
That's great.
Yeah. It's great.
That's beautiful. And talking about family, I know you were in London May 2024 with your niece for 24 hours.
I was there briefly. What are you, stalking me?
This is why they're paying me the big bucks. That's all I'm saying. Alicia, you want to write that check?
I live in Paris as well. And I was in Paris, and the people from McAllen called me and said, hey, we have some extra room. We're taking a bunch of clients that are like collectors, McAllen collectors, to this place, and we're doing a tour of the McAllen distillery, and why don't you come along? And the only flight to get up to wherever they are up in the northern part of Scotland was out of London was easier. So I took the train. My niece lives in London. She bought a little flat and her roommate was out. So she had a room for me to stay. And then I was excited because I got there. I dropped off my bags. We went out to lunch. We went to a great little lunch at a place called, what is it called? Mountain, maybe. It's downtown. It was really, really good. And then that night we went out with her friends. Some of her, she said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Well, I want to meet your friends. Let's get your friends then, and let's go out to dinner. I'll take some of your friends out to dinner." And then we went to a bar where there was a club downstairs and hung out till like 2 or 3 in the morning with all her friends. And I had a blast. It was great to meet, to sort of just get a glimpse into my niece's life. I have four nieces and nephews, and she lives there. She went to college. She went to high school outside of London. She went to King's College. She graduated there, and now she's doing. She works for, I think, some kind of computer security company or something. She's doing really well. She's, I think, 26 and has bought a flat with her friend, and
Amazing.
That's buying a little place.
Wow.
And it was great. Yeah,
it
was great. And then I got on the plane a little bit hungover and flew up to Scotland to go drink scotch, which was an amazing experience, by the way. The Macallan it's quite a brand, and I think a lot of people know it. But having the experience of being able to go to the distillery and meeting some of these people that collect. I mean, there's collectors who are very, very serious. And then we walked into a room, and the lights were down, and the lights came up, and there was a bottle of 1951 rare sitting there, and they poured us a little taste of it. It was really, really quite special. Really.
Do you know the difference between Irish whiskey and Scottish whiskey?
No, do you mean the proper definition of the difference, or just where it comes from?
The one thing that separates the two whiskeys the most.
A border.
That was good.
One of them wears a kilt. One of them hardly wears a kilt. Irish whiskey is 3 times distilled, making it purer, cleaner, and easier to digest, and should be less of a hangover for drinking lots and lots of it. My dad was a bootlegger for Irish whiskey when I grew up.
Okay.
I'm not surprised.
No, but we used to go to restaurants. He'd order an Irish coffee. They'd bring it over. He'd sip it. He'd say, "This is Scottish." They'd say, "How did you know that?" He'd say, "Well, I can taste the difference. I can taste the Irish hops. I can feel the feels." And then they would say, "Well, unfortunately, this is apartheid South Africa. We're sanctioned. We're not allowed Irish whiskey in the country. We're only allowed Scottish." He'd say, "Well, guess what I've got in the back of the van?" We'd run outside. That saved us. That was one of the greatest things to this day. Well, I don't drink anymore, 5 years sober, but I used to definitely give back to the Irish and Irish whiskey in a big way.
That's awesome.
It's something to bring up next time you're in a Scottish whiskey tasting. You can be like, "Oh, yeah, I can taste it 2 times."
Yeah, I'm just going to sit there and sip my juice and be happy.
I love that you want to do all these different experiences, and the energy and the curiosity. I think that's, really important as we get older, to not stop doing things. And I think health is a big part of that, as we talked about earlier. So what else would you say during your life and what you're doing now? Where are you going? What's next for you?
Gosh, I don't know. I'm not really sure. It's interesting because I'm very happy where I am, and yes, you're right. I need to start pushing myself and doing something new.
I think different. You are doing that.
No, but I always feel like
that's not at all what I said.
No, but I always feel like I could be doing more, and I feel like it's and yes, you're right. Like I literally have a travel schedule for the next 3 weeks coming up, and it's ridiculous. I'm going in a lot of places, but I enjoy that, and I think just saying yes to things a little bit more. I think I know I do it already, but like going, I wanted to go to more performances of stuff. I feel like I've been lacking in I love being entertained. I love going. I mean, I'll go to a Lil Wayne concert. I will go to a Jelly Roll concert, and then I'll go see a Wagner opera. I mean, I love opera too. I love opera. I love ballet. I have a very big. I love musicals. I love being entertained, and it's just one of those things that I've got to get myself there a little bit more often, and sort of one of my things I told myself this year, I should try to get myself to more performances. So I'm working on it. This but once again, time's limited. It's hard to go to everything.
And there's something about a live performance, though. It's just such a difference when you're somewhere and everybody is experiencing the same thing. Yeah. It's just that energy.
There's nothing like it. And then sometimes, like I just was at Carnegie Hall, and there's this pianist from Iceland who's like one of the top pianists right now in the world. And a year ago, I saw him. I went there, and it was just him on stage with his piano, and he played the Goldberg Variations, which is one of Bach's major pieces. And it was, just goosebumps the whole time. And then I went and saw him again. He did a dual piano with another person recently, which was good as well. But it's when you see that kind of, I'm always so jealous when I see performers. I'm like, God, I wish I could play the piano. I wish I could do something artistic like that. It would be really fun.
I think food is artistic. I mean, especially this food that you've made, the presentation, all of it. It's unbelievable.
Just trying to
Was he quite small, the Icelandic pianist?
No, they're a tall guy.
Oh, wow. I always thought, given the cold, my pianist would be quite shrinked.
I can't say his name. It's too long. Those Iceland names are like this long.
I'm gonna have to look that up. We always have a short section of quick fire questions. Actually, that's not true. We hardly ever have a quick fire.
I know, we usually forget.
We always forget. We're supposed to do it at every episode. But we're going to do today we're going to do it because you have all the energy to make up for all the times that we've missed out doing quick fire.
Right.
So question number one. Yeah. Question number one. Can you spell restaurant without any help?
Not really, no.
I definitely can't.
Over the years, I've gotten a little bit better, but it's always tricky. The spelling that's not my thing.
Not my thing at all.
But what's great is the button on the app that you push and you can talk and it writes it for you. And if I had that in school, I might have made it to college. But it is such an amazing tool for people like myself who are dyslexic. Because I sit there sometimes, I'm like, it just doesn't know what I'm writing. There's no clue to even spell check what I'm trying to write because it's how bad I can spell. Yeah, everybody, my family makes fun of me. They're always like, "Are you on the computer again, Dad?" That's I know what I'm not good at, and that's one of them.
Favorite app on your phone?
I have to say X. I find X very of the moment, and if what you're looking for, I think whenever I hear something's happening, you go there and it's already being reported there before anywhere else. I find
that's true.
And no, I mean I just use it as I think it's a good tool. I think.
Love that. Last meal, carbonara or something else?
Probably carbonara. Yeah.
Tattoos. Tempted yet?
Always wanted one. Never knew what to get. But have no idea. And as they say, tattoos are just a permanent reminder of a momentary thought.
That's a beautiful quote. Sophia, copy that one, click that one, clip that one. Not
that people can do whatever they want, but it's sort of funny that when I started in this business, nobody had tattoos. And I don't have one. And now everybody has them. It's a cook, basically. And I still don't have them. I'm like, all right, now I'm the weirdo.
Times have changed. I remember bartending, and we weren't allowed to have tattoos. And, of course, I had them.
Wow.
So. But, yeah.
That's how old this show is.
That's how old we are.
Favorite cooking show, non-reality?
I think there's this thing right now, and I don't even know where I see it. I probably caught it on X as well. But there's these Marco Pierre White's doing these things, and he was one of my first cookbooks I ever bought, Marco Pierre White, and I just love the way he speaks about food. I love his style of cooking is very much the way I like to cook, and it's literally when he talks about things, it's sexy. I mean, it's like, wow. I mean, he did a video of pomme fondante, which is wonderful. Yeah, and I'm just like, this is the hottest video
for those who don't speak French, because I know you're fluent in French, what is that?
Pomme fondante is just potatoes that are cooked with a lot of butter and stock and very slowly.
What's not to love? I know you have a new show coming out, 24.
Well, it's a show that I'm on.
You're on? Okay, great.
It's not my show.
Okay.
None is mine.
That's fine.
I don't have a show.
You don't want a show.
That's fine.
Do you want a show?
No, but the one thing I do is I import olive oil now. So my brother lives in Umbria, outside of Spoleto, in a little town called Roselli. Mm-hmm. We have about 250 olive trees, and we've started importing our olive oil, which is called Umbrian Gold, which is right here.
Awesome.
And it's good stuff. It's we do 3 different olive varietals in there.
Love that.
And actually, the most exciting thing is we have 2 pallets of it going to Williams-Sonoma right now, because we are going to be selling. They're going to be selling it for us at Williams-Sonoma, or you can get it on my website as well.
That's awesome.
It's kind of cool. I'm very, very excited about that. I mean, it's great to have this little project on the side like this. Plus, this way I have olive oil here that I can use, and it's really good.
Yeah.
'Cause I love
Who doesn't
good
love
olive
good
oil.
olive oil? And it's hard to find.
There's a lot of bad olive oil out there.
rancid
Yeah.
olive oil
Yeah.
being sold.
So this is the good stuff.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, everyone. And thank you, Marc, for joining us today. Sorry we lost you, Jace, but
catch you next time.
Okay.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
If you love this episode, make sure to subscribe so you never miss your weekly fix. New episodes are released every Wednesday. And if you think this podcast could help someone in your life build their own rich life recipe, please make sure to share this with them too.
Hey, you. Yes, you. I'd like to invite you to something brand new. Something we're calling One Person Empire. Who am I? Jason Scott. You just saw me a couple of seconds ago in that podcast, where we were telling you about a rich life, where we bring you guests to explain how to have a rich life. It's in this idea that we decided to create a community to teach people just like you how to have your own rich life. What is a rich life? It's about doing what you want, with whom you want, when you want, wherever you want. Think of one-person empires like the Alcoholics Anonymous, a place to come to find community, to find people just like you who've done it, who've got through it, who can help you get through it. Because no one is coming to save you. That's what it says. Save yourself. Build an empire. That's what I want for you. That's what your family wants for you. That's what your community wants for you. AI, robotics, technology, tariffs, it's changing the world. But here's a chance to you to change your own world, to find sovereignty, to find independence. This is what we're offering. It's a set of principles and a set of challenges to turn you from entrepreneur to entrepreneur. It's a blueprint we can teach absolutely anyone. And that's what's inside One Person Empires. Other people just like you, learning the process, going through the challenges. In fact, I wanted to make it so bulletproof that in our very first challenge, I'm going to show you how to make all your money back for joining. And because you're a listener of the podcast, we've made you a special offer. Simply type in listener to get a discount in the community. Joining the community, have a chance to find out what it's like to live a rich life.